Hey guys, welcome to the Real Estate Leadership and Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Powell, and today we have a very, very special guest, Danielle Chiasson. She is a real estate mogul and she is doing some really, really exciting things in the coaching space right now with her company, Strategic Coaching. So please check out this episode, hit like, hit subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am super excited today to introduce to you guys Danielle Chiasson. If you guys are in the real estate kind of sphere or space, then you must have heard of her. And myself and Kaylee have both had the pleasure of knowing Danielle and being friends with Danielle now for a number of years, I would say. So I don't know how long it's been exactly, but we're super grateful that you could join us on the Real Estate Leadership and Legacy Podcast. And so before we get into the conversation, obviously, I'd like to introduce you. So I got a short little bio here of Danielle. So Danielle Chiasson, for those of you who don't know, is a serial entrepreneur in residential redevelopment and rental housing in Ontario. So she's done a wide range of projects from light cleanups to full renovations and legal conversions. Danielle has demonstrated her expertise. And as a general contractor, she manages trades and staff, handles finances, and continually educates herself and others. Additionally, Danielle is a passionate coach, sharing her knowledge through speaking engagements and online platforms to help investors reach their financial goals. Despite her busy schedule, she's a proud mother of 3, and she remains dedicated to supporting entrepreneurship and empowering others in business and real estate through the monthly networking events she hosts. So once again, thank you so much for joining us, Danielle, and welcome to the show.
It's an honor to be here, Alex. Thank you so much for inviting me. I can't wait to share with your audience.
Yes, of course. So how long do you think we've known each other now? Probably going on about 5+ years.
Yeah, it's a great question. When you said that, when you were introducing me, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. How long has it been? So I think I want to go back I want to say 2018.
Probably something like that. Yeah. But so anyway, all of our interactions have been nothing but awesome. So you're a natural fit. And I know actually you've, Danielle's joined us on GAIN meetings for the Greater Hamilton Area Investor Network. This is like pre-COVID. So, and we've also interacted in actual, like on the field, we've seen properties and stuff together. So it's been very, very cool to see your growth. And I love to see what you're doing with the strategic success coaching program. So obviously I want to delve into that a little bit more. And I want to learn a little bit more about what is actually going on in that space. What are your thoughts? Where do you see it going? And what kind of things we can start to talk about? So starting us off, what got you into real estate?
Gosh, what got me into real estate? Honestly, like everybody thinks real estate is sexy, and there's definitely an attraction there. People want to get into real estate. They know there's something about real estate. All people of any significant wealth own real estate. And so I was no different. I was in my 20s. Everybody looks at houses. I mean, everybody's driven through that neighborhood and looked at your dream homes and, oh, it'd be nice to have that. And you know what? You got to dream it first before you can actually make it a reality, right? And so that was my journey. So ultimately, real estate for me in my 20s was not a thing. My mindset wasn't there. And now I know we hear a lot of chatter about mindset. And some people still think mindset is kind of a wah thing, woo or whatever, right? But honestly, you cannot be a successful business owner or entrepreneur without having the right mindset. Now, I say that with a grain of salt because success is very subjective. And so whatever your definition of success is, maybe having your own home is just enough to feel successful in life. And that's okay too. My definition of success is much bigger than that. And so, in order to be bigger, to scale, you definitely have to have a different mindset. And I spent a lot of time on that. Like that is probably one of my biggest subjects, and constantly learning and growing in that space, as well as in my business. So, so I started in my 20s, got my first property when I was 27. That was, I don't want to tell you how long ago that was, but I'm in my 21st year, which is really sad. I'm not getting any younger.
That's not sad at all. It's refined experience. It's good.
Ooh, I like that. Refined experience. Yes. Actually, somebody told me a while ago, Danielle, you're like a fine wine. You just get better with age. So I'm hanging
There
on
you
to that.
go. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Hanging on to that. So 27, bought my first property, and I actually bought my first primary residence and my investment property in the same week. And so we closed on the same week.
Wow.
Yeah, it was days apart. And that was very intentional. So moved into one, rented the other, did it with my best friend at the time, and never looked back. Like honestly, for the next decade, I was a landlord. We just bought property and owned it, rented it out. Thought I knew everything, had the game figured out. I was like high as a kite, on top of the moon, and then I decided to
On
take.
life, right? On
Yeah,
life, high as a kite. Yeah.
definitely. Yes, definitely on life.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Those were the years I was having my kids. So yes, definitely on life. So yeah,
I got you. Don't worry.
maybe I needed something else to get through those years. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
So, but honestly, I had a great time. I thought I knew everything, and then I went and I invested into a real estate course in the States. There wasn't a lot here at the time, and I invested into a course in the States, and then I quickly learned I knew nothing about real
You and I
estate.
are cut from the same jib there. You know that? Like, I don't know a lot of people that are part of the Fortune Builders platform, but you and I definitely
Yep.
are.
Yep. And when did
Yeah.
you join?
I want to say maybe 2013.
Yeah, that's when I joined
20.
as well. But you never traveled
Yeah.
down there to learn. You never went to the boot camps. I was in those boot camps. Man, I was in those rooms every 6 weeks. Like it was
Yeah.
insane. I spent
Yeah.
2 years.
My fortune builder trajectory was a lot slower. Like I kind of got in. I really hunkered down on the modules, but I was still working at Acon at the time. I still kind of had a foot only in real estate. And as soon as I like quit my job and I was like, okay, I'm dedicating my whole time to real estate, that's when I really ramped up with fortune builders and I started going to like boot camps and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And those boot camps, man, they were informational, weren't they?
Oh yeah, big time. Big
Everything.
time.
Like,
I
go ahead.
No, on that whole concept of mindset, and I know you're just touching on it. It's funny, every single real estate book I remember reading when I first got into real estate, the first like two chapters are dedicated to mindset. And you're reading it, and you're kind of like you roll your eyes a little bit, and you're like, okay, I get it. You gotta like believe, and it's like it seems all very frou-frou. And it's funny, it's like the more you learn about real estate and the more you learn about whatever, raising capital, different strategies on how to close a deal, the more you realize what you don't know. And then the
Mm-hmm.
more you realize how much mindset affects everything because your limiting beliefs can really hinder you. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Fortune Builders actually was pivotal with my mindset because going to those boot camps, they were awesome at kind of pushing you outside of your thought processes, your regular standardized thought processes that you had. And so like really stretched me beyond my limiting beliefs and I crushed through them. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today. There's no way I would be able to do what I'm doing today without that. And so
Yeah.
ultimately, I did Fortune Builders, and that was the turning point for me when I went from a amateur investor, aka landlord, to a sophisticated investor, and I really made it my goal. So ultimately, Fortune Builders for me, like I said, 2 years. I was down there educating myself, like you don't even like the amount of hours I spent in those networking rooms was incredible. And so, just did a lot of learning. And I kind of looked at it like this: it was my education to be a brain surgeon, right? And so I did
Mhm.
all of that front end education. And then when I came home, I started implementing and powered that with networking and started connecting with people around here. Because all of a sudden I realized I was so well networked in the States, I could go invest in any city in the States and stay at a friend's house. And I was
Yep.
like, but dang it, I don't know anybody here because I spent all my time down there. So I started networking heavily here and built my business on networking, which is why I'm so big in networking. And of course, I remember, I think I spoke at your second Gain event. Happy to
Mhm.
support you in that and always, always supporting you in that. And I love how it's evolved and continued after COVID. It's been great. And Hamilton needs that because they don't really have that, right?
Yeah. No, that's awesome, and it's actually very impactful. To the community to have people who are so knowledgeable be able to pour into each other. That's the one thing I love about the real estate community too, is that um, there is a lot of information. I can give it to people. There's a lot of analysis paralysis that can take place, but there's also an abundance of people that are so full of knowledge that are just always willing to share, because real estate's such a hot topic. You sit around any table, someone brings up the term real estate or the word real estate, and everybody's just chatting for the rest of the night because it's an interesting topic. There's a lot to be had with it. So that
You know
actually,
what's funny? Hang on, Alex. I gotta tell you,
yeah, for sure.
funny story. If somebody brings up real estate in my personal life, I am not a part of that conversation. I am a heavy listener. I'm gonna tell you, I cannot, because the way I look at real estate and the way people in my personal life who are not in real estate look at real estate,
yeah,
very different.
I'm referring to the conversations and these networking events and things like that. So those people that are striving to do better and learn, like any of these networking events, you end up talking to real estate is great. But a funny quote that I actually heard was, being a real estate investor is actually one of the loneliest jobs in the world. And it's true, because who do you talk to about real estate?
Mm-hmm.
And who gets it? It's like, when you're having conversations about debt and good debt, and debt being, people are like, that's not good. No, you should pay that off very quickly. It's like a return on investments or IRRs, or, talk about landlord tenant kind of situations and how to do things better, faster, quicker, creating a business around real estate. It can often be a very lonely conversation. I think that's why people like you and we go to these networking events, because it's like therapeutic for a little bit. It's like, oh, thank you. Finally, someone who just gets it,
Well, you know what I call it? I call it the modernized men's club. Because being an owner, it's not just a real estate investor, but being an owner, a business owner, an entrepreneur, an investor, it is lonely, because it's such a small part of the population who's in that space. So not a lot of people can identify with you and your challenges and the things that you have to go through. I mean, they just see the output of it, which is a nice home, a nice car, some nice vacations, and the flexibility and freedom to choose what you want to do with your time and when, right? I mean, I get to go to my daughter's rugby games. I get to, be present with my children when they want me to be. Like when my kids were in school, I was volunteering, and while the other moms were at their corporate jobs and go to work, right? And so I was able to drop them off at school, pick them up, be very present. And it's the output is people see what we get to benefit from, but they don't really see all the struggles behind the scenes. And there's a lot of struggles.
Oh, yeah.
And when we do what we do, we get really good at handling it well without really, wearing that struggle on our faces. So they don't really see the struggle. That's why there's a misconception out there that real estate investing is easy. I mean, how many students do I get come through a program where they're like, oh my God, I got to do what? Yeah, you got to pick up the phone and call people, strangers. Yes, you need to do that. That is something you need to do. It's called cold calling. Like there is work involved when you want to build a business. I'm sorry to tell you.
Yep. And the grit, that's what I find is one of the key factors I see across successful entrepreneurs within the real estate investing industry is grit, just relentless pursuit and not giving up. It's awesome. So let's keep going with your trajectory. So you started getting into you bought your first 2 properties, you started to gain some traction, you started to network, and then you pulled back here into Canada and you started to network some more. So where did we take it from there?
Yeah, so I flipped for 5 years. COVID happened, and then I decided to pivot and go into multifamily. So the interesting thing is when you go on your real estate journey, it really is a journey. And as you learn and you grow with your knowledge and your expertise, then maybe where you thought you want it to be isn't where you want to end up. And so, for example, like maybe I just wanted to own 5 or 6 houses. I got to that. And then I'm like, yeah, no, I want to do more. Right. And then it was like, well, why am I doing houses? I want to have multi-unit properties. Excuse me. And then, so from there, I wanted to do multis. So I moved into the multi-unit space. I also I had 2 burnouts working these projects and doing everything alone. And so ultimately I said, I can't do this anymore. This is not what I want to do. I'm going to go into the multi-unit space. And I ended up buying what I knew, which was distressed properties. And I bought myself some projects. I'm like, no, it's not what I wanted to do. So we know what happened in 2022, 23, the interest rates. I mean, we're still seeing the effects of that trickling in right now. Investors got hammered. What happened with us in September of 2022, after the fourth interest rate hike, I believe it was, I said, okay, I talked to my partners. We need to look at our portfolio. We need to make sure we're okay here. Let's see what's going on. And as we were looking at the portfolio and analyzing the portfolio, there was different strategies that I had in mind we could do. One is like trim the fat. So if there's, a property that's not really producing well or holding us back, sinking us a little bit, let's offload that. We could sell some equity, do a cash infusion into our business. We could just sell some to get a cash infusion. So we were looking at all these different things. We had some projects still that we hadn't yet touched, some properties that we'd bought that we hadn't yet started. So, do we do those? What do we do? So there was all these different questions. But as we looked at the portfolio, we realized these are not the properties that we actually wanted when we went into the multifamily space. And so we decided we wanted purpose-built multis, not these distressed ones that we needed to clean up and convert, renovate, maybe add some units to, like the lifts. We actually didn't want those. So we decided to offload those. And one of the main reasons why is because we also had a plan to launch strategic success as a one-to-many instead of me doing coaching one-to-one. And when I started that process, I realized that is building a whole new business from the ground up. And there's only one way I can do that is if I have time. You can't build a business doing a half-assed job. You can't. You got to be committed. And so I decided to offload with my partners, decided to offload these properties so that we can restructure our investments, come back in. Again, on that journey, we realized we wanted purpose-built multis, larger purpose-built multis, so that I could have an on-site property manager and take a position as an asset manager instead of being the property manager and the project manager, right? So, and being protective of my time now, because I value my time more than I did when I started on this journey, right? When I started on this journey, I'm in Home Depot looking at tiles, selecting backsplashes. Like, that is not the highest and best use of my time now. You will not see me do that. And so
I was in the aisle next to you, by the way, probably looking at the plumbing stuff at the same time.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
We were almost together, my friend. We were.
Oh, I know. It's funny when the pro desk agents at Home Depot know you by your first name and ask how your kids are doing,
Right?
For sure.
And you think it's really cool and it's awesome because you're like, oh yeah, I'm a contractor. I got this, right? And then now, like, I don't regret it for a minute because we learn so much when we're in the weeds, and it's made me a much better business owner and manager and leader now. And you need that. Like, ultimately, I've learned to let go and trust others in my business now, and I don't do it alone. And I did for many years. And I'm pro bringing in partnerships and people if you want to scale and grow and keep your sanity. Like, you can do it all yourself, but you're not going to own a business. You're going to own a job because you're going to be chained to doing everything. So, So anyhow, so I did that, and then, and now we haven't looked back. So we've spent all of our time kind of reassessing what we're doing in the real estate space. We're offloading these properties that we don't want in the markets that we actually don't want. And in the interim, we have relaunched Strategic Success.
Honestly, I've seen, and for those of you guys who don't follow Danielle on Instagram or on Facebook, definitely get her handle. We'll provide all those in the show notes. Follow her because the stuff you guys are doing with Strategic Success is awesome. Like, I'd be mean to go out to those. I think last time we were in Florida with Kaylee and I. The time before that, there was something, but I know they're kind of open for them. We just get tickets, right? You buy tickets and then you kind of show up, right? So we're definitely mean to come out to one because honestly, Southern Ontario is starving for good quality networking events. And I think that, just from conversations, I know what it takes to like bring people together and to actually provide value. It's funny. You can go to some of these places and you just kind of roll your eyes because they might sell you something or whatever. It sounds kind of salesy. But as long as people are adding value and you're getting a good quality outcome, so I've seen some of the stuff and I've been longing to go, but it's it's on our list of places to go. That'll be a babysitter hire night for sure. Yeah.
Pretty soon they're
Yeah.
going to be
So,
coming with you. The whole flock will be coming with you.
oh, I know. That's we're prepping them for that. So with regards to strategic success and with regards to coaching, you've had a passion for coaching and helping people. Tell me a little bit about that. How's the journey going across the coaching side of your business now? How's things?
Oh my God, it's beautiful. So I just got off a coaching call this morning. Every Friday we do a coaching call with the team, and I love it. So the way it works like this. So Corey McKinnon is my coaching partner. So he has the structure and the knowledge, the grit, the leadership, all of that for the coaching program, which is why I enrolled him. When I mapped out what I wanted to do for strategic success, I knew that I can't be everywhere all the time and that I would need strong, solid partners who were in alignment with my core values and my beliefs, which is to actually give. And there are some coaches out there, and I'm not knocking anybody, but everybody has a different methodology. But some coaches out there want to teach, but they don't want to give you everything because then they want to upsell you. They want to give you more, right? And so, which is fine. That's their business model. But we just want to see our students successful. So we give you everything. And so we bring people into our fold. We now have, like with the launch of the new year, we have a launch of new program. And so our program is a 3-tiered coaching program. We have low tier, mid tier, and top tier. The low tier is content based with some very mild coaching, which is to say that we have a group coaching call where we can ask, you can ask questions on the content you're consuming, and we'll answer those questions. We want to make sure you get some clarity, but it's content based for new people who don't really know. They're just really new, like into the real estate world. They don't really know what path they're taking, that sort of thing. And then our mid tier program is a hybrid of content and coaching. So it's content based with some moderate coaching. And so that's a 6-month program. And that is to set the foundation for you to build your real estate business, to build your real estate portfolio, whatever it is. Because some people want to build a real estate business and some people want to build a real estate portfolio. It's one or the other, it doesn't matter, whatever is right for you. But we're going to help you build the foundation to that. And so it's very accountability based, where we're going to give you some action items and some tasks and exercises for you to do to connect with your real estate team, to connect with all the people you need to connect with, your potential partners, your contractors, all of that. And we guide you through that and hold you accountable to it. So that when you get to the top tier, if you choose to go that route, that's where we focus on getting your investment back, so that you're not just spending on coaching, but you're actually getting a return on your investment, because coaching should be an investment and you should have a goal to get a return on your investment always. And so that is the top tier. It's not as exciting as the mid tier, where there's a lot of action happening in the mid tier, because the top tier, we're just focused on your plan. We map out a roadmap for you. We make sure you get the clarity you need. And as far as your strategy, your market, and now we're just focused on obtaining the first and second property. And that's a 12-month program. It's one-on-one coaching. It's 36 calls throughout the year with strong accountability. So we have you walking through properties, underwriting properties. We review those with you. We tell you our opinion. And then we help you, like even with the agreements of purchase and sale and all of that. So we walk you through it. So we're essentially your security blanket, so that you can be confident in pulling the trigger, which is one of the problems that people have, is that the lack of confidence of pulling the trigger, right? So that's what we're there
That's
for,
awesome.
to ensure you get your money back. And
Honestly,
by
I
the way,
don't know.
not just get your money back. Hang on. Really important I say this. Not just get your money back, but teach you how to create infinite returns. So it's our strategic infinite program, right? So where
I
you
love
can
that.
start getting infinite returns on your investment.
I don't know if people who are listening, hopefully they understand just how critical finding a good coach is. I think that especially during the boom that took place like 2020, 2021, when property values skyrocketed, everybody and their grandmother who made like a surplus on a duplex conversion thought they were God's gift to real estate, and then decided to start a coaching program. And now look who's still standing around. So if you look at Danielle and Corey's training, strategic coaching, they're not only standing around, they're thriving right now. So it might just have something to do with some experience and being strategic in their investing and understanding how to bend and flex with the market, which is incredibly important. And we're seeing it. I mean, anybody who's checking into the news lately can see just the chaos that's ensuing in our industry. So good on you for showing people the nuts and bolts of it, because it's incredibly important. And Corey McKinnon too, he's a powerhouse. He's an awesome individual and super smart investor. So the podcast here is the Real Estate Leadership and Legacy podcast. So I want to touch a little bit on the legacy aspect of it, because of course we're talking real estate. We know you're a leader in the industry, of course, but I want to understand your take on legacy. What does legacy look like to you, and how do you see legacy transpire through your coaching students?
Legacy is a subjective term. It's like success. It's a matter of opinion, really, right?
For sure.
And
Yeah.
so for me, though, legacy, when I think legacy, it's like, what are people going to say at my funeral? That has to be my legacy. And how long is my impact on this world going to last after my funeral? Like, that's legacy, in my opinion. And so I want to make sure that I touch as many, which is why I want it strategic. Like, I did coaching before. It was very unstructured. It was one-to-one. People were reaching out to me. I go up on stage and they're like, hey, can you help me with this? Would you coach me on that? Would you mentor me? And yeah, and I had my little package that I did, and I did one-to-one because I was very busy in my business. I really didn't have time to build another business or, just do coaching. Right. And so I was just kind of like doing that. And I realized I realized the impact that I was making on people. And it was really interesting because it's like when you're coaching somebody on their journey, and I've had many students far excel beyond what I've done, by the way, very, very smart people. And that to me excites me because to be in the front seat on someone else's journey, to know that I had a small part of it. And when I say small, like, I kind of picture myself as being the passenger on a road trip with my student, and I have the map. I'm the navigator, right? And so back in the old days, before cell phones, we used to have a paper map, and you needed to have a navigator with you. So your partner, your travel partner, would be the one telling you, yeah, at the next stop sign, you're going to go left, and over there, you're going to go right, down 3 streets, and you had somebody navigating for you, right? Just like a pilot. So maybe I should just change it to a pilot. But anyway, so pilots have that. They have their navigators, right? And so I kind of figure, like, I look at it as me as the navigator. I'm not doing the work. I didn't buy the car. I didn't insure the car. I didn't wash the car. I didn't do all the maintenance on the car. All of the work, I didn't put gas in the car. Like, all of the work is done by the driver. I'm just a very small part to say, yeah, maybe we should go this way. Maybe you should go that way. And you know what? Here, there's a fork in the road. Where do you want to go? The driver makes that decision, not me. I'm just the navigator that's offering different options to get to where they want to go. But ultimately, the driver gets to choose to take the long route, the scenic route, the short route. And so, like, I don't know. I can't tell you. And I know you've coached some people too, Alex. So you can relate to this. Like, when they're successful and they get their property and you see the impact that you make on that person, man, it is rewarding. It is way more rewarding than collecting rent checks at the end of the month. Like, I can see, the rent getting deposited in my accounts every month end. And it's like, yeah, it's nice to see the number in my account, but it's not rewarding. It's really not. I mean, that is just a vehicle to my passion. Real estate is a vehicle to your passion, guys. It is a vehicle
100%.
to your passion. That's it. So anyway, I'm not saying I don't love real estate. Don't get me wrong. I'm one of those crazy people that actually does love real estate. There's not many of us out there. I actually do love real estate, but this is next level when you're helping people. And then I just realized, like, I want to do that. I want to impact as many people as I can. And so that's when I decided I wanted to make Strategic Success a large platform where we could do one to many as opposed to me just doing one to one. And that will tie into my legacy. And my legacy ultimately with Strategic Success, it's all about the client journey because their success is ultimately my success. Like, think about it. If my students aren't successful, it's going to be really hard for me to be successful in my business because they're going to go
Mm-hmm.
around telling people, like, hey, no, I did our coaching program and it didn't work for me. Or, oh, it was a waste of money. Or, oh, yeah, we didn't get what we thought we were getting. Right. And so I am so adamant about making sure that everybody who's in our organization, from the staff that are on the other side of the world to our coaches here, to our trades that help us and the affiliates, like even in the networking room, the speakers that speak, they have to be in alignment with us and want to make sure that they're delivering value. And if they don't subscribe to that, they're not going to be in my community for very long. I promise you that. Even as an attendee, I've had people come, it's just not the right tribe for that kind of person,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's okay. So, yeah, so I just want to do one to many. That's my legacy. At my funeral, I want people to say that, she had a positive impact on my life. And I hope that impact trickles down generations. Like, ultimately, my students come through the program, and if I get them closer to 2 or 3 investment properties, and that helps them send their kids to college, take their kids on family vacations, and bond with their family and stay closer, be able to fly their kids home for Christmas if the kids move away, like, isn't that a lasting impact? Like, that is, and it's a trickle down effect. I'm not just helping my students have a better retirement. And by the way, when I say better retirement, wouldn't it be nice to be in retirement and to be able to live in somewhere green and warm in the winter and then fly your grandkids out for Christmas and go to Disney World? You can't do that on a pension. You just can't,
Nope.
right?
Nope. That's amazing. I love that. It's totally teaching the person to fish, not feeding them for the day. And
100%.
and I think that in real estate, especially, it's one of these industries that once again, it's a mindset shift. This brings me to a story that I heard just a little while ago. We had a friend whose friend got laid off from their job, and they've been at this job for like 10 years. And the first thing that was going through my mind, while at the same time my friend is telling me this story about their friend, in my mind I'm like, oh man, it's the luckiest thing ever. Finally, they can like decide to pivot. And the story from my friend was like, it's so sad. It's and it's like, how can that be two different stories happening? Because a
Mm-hmm.
person who just got laid off and has a year severance or a year and a half or 2 years, whatever they had, it's a pretty substantial amount, can now learn to fish. They've broken the cycle. And I find that a lot of people who are getting into real estate, that's the hardest part in itself, is cracking that cycle of like constantly working. And now, I mean, you're a mom of 3 kids. I've got 3 little ones as well, which is crazy. Um, but you realize how little time you have at the end of the day, too, right? You're at home, you're working during the day, you're dialed in, trying to focus. By the time you get home, like we pour into our family as well, like we have family dinners every night. So that's very, very important to us. But by the time you like wrestle or whatever with the kids, get them bathed up, and by the time you're sitting on the couch, like I'm pooched. And then to remotivate yourself, it's very challenging. And there has to be a big enough why within a person to actually be like, enough is enough. I need to make a decision that's going to change the legacy of my future generations, of my life, of my retirement, of my marriage, of my whatever the case may be for that particular person.
But if I can just piggyback on that a little bit, Alex, honestly, you can make that decision all you want, but there's going to be nothing behind that decision if you don't have the right mindset, right? And
For
so,
sure.
like, your friend that said, oh wow, so sad for him, if he was the guy that got laid off, he would not look at it as an opportunity. He would look at it as a downside and be like, oh my god,
Hmm.
what happened? And maybe that friend is in their 40s, like, who's going to hire me now? And then you play the victim, right? And so there's a choice to be made, and people don't realize how you view a situation is a choice. You can choose to look at it from a positive side, or you can choose to look at it from a negative side. That is a choice. But what happens is typically most people default into their way of default thinking. And
Mhm.
so a lot of people's default thinking, especially if you're in the corporate world or in a toxic work environment, that is negative because that's what you're around every day. And so that's your default. And if that is your default, you have to make a conscious decision to say, no, I'm not thinking like this anymore. I'm going to take ownership of my life. I am not a victim here. And then make a change. Because if you're in that negative mindset and you allow your default thinking to make decisions for you, which by the way, it does, you think you're in control, you're not, your mind is, until you decide to take control. And so what happens is that default thinking makes decisions for you. You can step up very slightly one day and say, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to own my life. I'm going to do something. And you're making that decision. But then, like you said, you go to work, you come home, you do dinner, you wrestle, you do
Yeah.
homework, you do bathing, and all of this while they're crying and kicking and screaming and fighting with each other. I mean, it's not pleasant some days, guys. Let's just be honest, right? And then by the time you hit the bed at 9:30 at night, you're just wiped. And
Yeah.
your whole moment that you had of making that decision that, yeah, I'm gonna look at properties. I'm gonna look at properties tonight when I get home from work, and I'm gonna I'm gonna look on the MLS and I'm gonna come up with 3 properties that I want to walk through, and I'm gonna call my realtor and make it happen on Saturday. Yeah, well, it's gone, right? And so even though you make that decision, if you don't have the right mindset, you're just not gonna have the power behind it in order to see it through, right? You have to say breaking the system or break, like you said, like it's the golden handcuffs. If it's corporate, like you're getting paid
Hmm.
well, so it's hard to let that go. It's hard to go into the unknown and not know if you can replace that income, right? And so, but whether it's
For sure.
corporate or whether it's just a regular job that's toxic, you're not happy at, it's really hard to motivate yourself when you're in that toxic environment and then you come home and life kicks in and maybe your wife's unhappy with you for a reason, that you don't understand, because that's what happens with wives and husbands. Like, we just don't know why we're mad at each other some days, right? And it's like, what's going on? And yeah, you just go, okay, well, whatever. And then I just want to go to sleep and start tomorrow again fresh. So you need to get in the
Yeah.
right mindset. And doing that is you need to feed your mind some good food, meaning read some books, read some podcasts, all about abundance thinking. Be around people who are big thinkers, open thinkers, positive thinkers, abundance mindset thinkers. And, here's a shameless plug. My room is that. My networking room,
Yeah.
my community is that. So if you're around people in strategic success, man, you are around abundant thinkers and it will
That
blow your mind.
that to me is bar none the most important. Is I think people naturally feel energies. When you're in a room, like a networking room, and you're sharing the same ideas, it's a different conversation. Like you were saying earlier, like sitting around a Thanksgiving dinner table talking about real estate is a very different conversation about real estate than sitting around a networking group table and talking about, there's an excitement, there's a percolation, you see things moving in the air, and people's energies draw on that. And so, Kaylee and I, before kids, obviously, we were like serial networkers. We go just about anywhere because that's how you break through those limiting beliefs. If
And
you
I
haven't
miss you
done
guys.
something, yeah, yeah, we
I
miss you
miss
too.
you guys. I
Yeah,
do.
a couple more years, and as you said, we'll become, or you just start a daycare on the sidebar. That actually could be a very good business opportunity. We'll talk about that offline, I think. But yeah,
Just for
you
the
could
Powell
charge a
family.
premium.
Just for the
Yeah, just
Powell
for
family.
just
Yeah.
for our 3 boys. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. But so do you, in terms of breaking through limiting beliefs, like let's say somebody's in your coaching program and they're already getting through, like how do you combat that when your life is so busy? How do you make the time to prioritize something so important like creating a legacy and creating financial freedom for yourself?
Yeah, it's not easy, Alex. Ultimately, I'll tell you why it's not easy, because in the beginning, it has to be a conscious effort. It's not your natural default. The reason why we default is because that's easy. It's done at a subconscious level. It's something that we do without effort. It's not hard. When we're doing things outside of our patterns, you have to break out of that subconscious way of thinking, and you have to put in effort to overcome that. And so when you're doing that, there's effort and it's tiring. And sometimes you don't know what you're going to get on the other side. And so there's that fear component that you have to overcome too. It's like, well, if I do this, especially going into a networking room, it's like, well, if I walk in there, I don't know what I'm walking into, right? If I go look at an investment property and I've never invested before, this realtor is going to think that I, think little of me, or he's going to judge me. And so it's very uncomfortable doing things that you haven't done before. But what I want to say is this: there's nothing stopping you from going back to your way of being. So give it a chance. Like, people think if I'm going to do it, then it's going to change who I am. It's going to change what I do. It's going to change my life. It's not. Like, just stop. It's not. So you just got to try it and give it a chance and go with an open mind. Because as soon as you go and you go, okay, and I don't need you to have an open mind, a wide open door. I just need a crack. That's all you need. Just go in there and say, you know what? I'm gonna go check it out. That's it. And then when you go to these networking events, and this is one of the things too, people think like, I'm going to go to this event. I don't know anything about real estate. I don't know what I'm going to say. Don't say anything. You just be part of a conversation. You can be listening. I mean, in order to have a conversation, you need somebody who talks and somebody who listens, right? Be the listener. And that's how you're going to learn. So all you need to do is ask interesting questions about that person. What do you do? How long have you been doing this? These are really safe questions. Do you know Danielle and Corey? If you come to my event, we're the organizers. You can say, have you been here before? Have you met Danielle and Corey? Have you done coaching with them? Right? What business are you into? And I'll tell you what, every one of those questions, if you have really good listening ears on, that person is going to talk and answer that question probably 5 to 7 minutes. If you just look and nod your head and let them talk, because people love to talk about themselves. So all you need to do to break the ice in a networking room is just ask that person about who they are, what they do, and how long they've been investing in real estate. Those are 3 questions that'll take you into a 15-minute conversation easily.
One of the best quotes I ever heard from a networking standpoint is that every person has an invisible sign on them. And that sign says, make me feel important.
I love that.
And when it comes to networking, you can, like, you ever gone somewhere and like all of a sudden you're pouring into somebody and then you walk away and they're like, man, I feel great after that conversation. And, you just listened the whole time, but that person got to talk and share and whatever and speak about themselves. And, it's proven to be very, very useful in my experience in networking for sure.
Yeah. And if they're saying something that they're into something that you don't know anything about, you could just, how does that work? I meet Alex in a networking room and I was like, oh yeah, I just BRRR'd this property. It was 100% BRRRR. What does that mean? 100% BRRRR. Oh, you don't know? No, I've never heard that before. Oh, you're new in town. Okay, no problem. And people love to help and they love to teach, especially on something they've done before. And so all you got to do is just ask a couple of questions. And I'm telling you, the conversation will go for a long time. You don't have to say much.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, these are some sound tidbits, but I think for all the viewers out there right now listening, the only way to actually try it is to come out to the next Strategic Success networking event. So with that being said, we are at our time. Is there any last piece of sage wisdom that you'd like to impart on our audience?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Just do it. Just do it. Get out of your own way and just do it. At the end of the day, if you don't like it, you can go back to how you were. That's fine too. But if there's any inclination or curiosity about how to invest in real estate, then you just got to do it. Just reach out, right? And it's just something. It doesn't have to be a lot. I mean, if you're following me, you're following Alex on socials, you can engage with us, send us a DM, see what we're up to, and then maybe listen to some podcasts. You don't have to go right into a networking room, but maybe then you saunter into a networking room kind of get the feel of it. And by the way, if you go into a networking room, and it might be mine that this happens to you, and I'm not your tribe, that's okay. Go to a different one. Like, give it a chance at least. Go to 2 or 3 to find your tribe, right? And so feel it out and see, and then have those conversations. And I promise you it gets easier. But if it works out that you're like, no, man, I'm good where I'm at, I'm just going to retire with my pension, that's okay too. There's no right or wrong. And that's the beauty about real estate and business in our lives, right? But yeah, I do encourage everybody to get out there. I was interested in real estate when I was 19 years old, and I regret not taking action then, and even a small action. But I do believe in everything happening for a reason. And so I don't question. My time came when it was meant to come, and here I am. However, if I could tell my former self, my younger self, I definitely would have pushed myself, like aggressively pushed myself into action. But there's no going back, guys. Once you take the blinders off and you see the world that you could have, there is no going back. And ultimately, I'm going to leave you with this. When they've done studies for people that are on their deathbed, and when you're facing death, the thing that you regret the most is not things that you've done, but you regret the things you haven't done. And so you don't want to look back and say, man, I wish I had of. So if there's a question at all that this is something I might want to do, then explore it and have fun doing it. That's the other thing too about my room. Like, I just think that there's, when I started this, like, we were in conference rooms, as you know, Alex, and they were very engaging, but it was still a boring conference room. And so, like, I'm all about, like, no, we can have fun while we're learning and growing our businesses. We don't have to do this in a boring way. And so I'm all about, like, finding ways to keep people engaged, have fun, and do it while we're growing, networking, and elevating each other. So go out there and have fun with it. Just have fun with it. It doesn't have to be a grind.
I love it. Perfect words couldn't have been said better. But listen, guys, thank you so much, Danielle. This was awesome, and time flew by. Once again, it's like whenever you and I talk, we blink, and it's an hour or whatever goes by. So I'm so proud of you for all the successes that you've been you're coming your way, and well deserved. Honestly, you are a force to be reckoned with, and I'm really excited to see how your journey starts to evolve. And I'll be looking forward to bringing a small cohort of pals with me to the next networking events.
I'm excited.
But anyways,
by the way, I'm doing.
Yes.
We're going to be looking at our philanthropic movement with strategic is financial literacy for kids. So as soon as those little pals are old enough, I'm going to be like, Alex, you got to bring them into my room because we're going to train them.
I think when that comes, I'll be put my hand up. I'll be happy to chip in however I can too. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
So we can thank you once again.
Very welcome.
All right. Thanks, guys, for joining me on today's episode of the Real Estate Leadership and Legacy Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please check out some of our other videos. We've got an abundance out there. We've got a lot of great insight and information, and we'll see you guys on the next one.